with you a little bit about Patriot Jack. We're the Kings Mountain Middle School Patriots, so we have named him Patriot Jack. And as we share a little bit with you today about him, we're going to be focusing on the digestive system as well as the respiratory system. Okay, and we know that digestion begins where?
In the mouth.
In the mouth, that's right.
So it'd be kind of cool if we could see him chewing up gross stuff and watch it go down here to the back of his throat that you can't see just yet, but you will see in a minute to the esophagus. Okay? So now we're going to show you a few things before we get to the esophagus that we've already learned about with the respiratory and circulatory system.
That's right. What you see when you look at it at a glance, because they've been in our classroom, some of them have been covered up, some of them have not, some classes, but this is what you're actually been looking at. These are the lungs. This large triangular shaped organ is the liver. It's the largest organ in the digestive system. This piece right here is the stomach, and the stomach actually slides out like that, and it is a J-shaped muscle or muscular organ. And then underneath the liver, you have this little piece of green, and that is going to be the gallbladder. And then down here is the intestines. But we're going to start, Ms. Short and I are going to start with the lungs and share with you a little bit about the lungs.
Okay, so if we take his lungs out, you can see they have two parts. We've got the front part of each lung, and we have the back part of each lung. And you can see that your heart kind of sits to the middle left of your chest. So you'll see there's a little bit different shape to the lungs on the side that I'm holding than the side that Miss May is holding. So you have, when you look at this is about the size of your lungs, okay? And you can see when we squeeze them, they're full of air, which is just like your lungs. You have this diaphragm right here, which is the muscle that moves when your lungs deflate, the muscle is up, and when your lungs inflate, the muscle goes down, which is also what causes the hiccups when those things are off kilter. But you can see all of the pieces of the lungs. You can see the bronchial tubes coming down here. You have two of those, and then you can see all of the different parts that we talked about, the alveoli and the little bronchial sacs, and that's what holds air for you to breathe. And this is also what helps filter out carbon dioxide and take in the oxygen that is carried off into your blood. Okay?
And below the lungs, you have your diaphragm, which helps to push air up, allows you to take a deep breath. And then we mentioned the kidney already. The stomach's here. And most people don't realize the kidney is as small as it is, and they also the stomach. What did I say? Kidney. Stomach, sorry. Most people don't realize the stomach is as small as it is, and most people tend to think the stomach's down here, but really it's up here, sort of right under your lungs and to the left of your liver when it's in your body. So if you take this part out, I'll let you show that one.
Okay, you've got the liver, and what the liver does is it processes fats, and so it produces an enzyme called bile, which is held in the gallbladder. So the gallbladder will squeeze and help you kind of digest things like fats. And sometimes your gallbladder flares up, and or you get stones inside of it, not actual rocks, but that's what they look like. And so people can have their gallbladder removed, which is perfectly fine. Your liver just kind of takes over, but it squeezes that bile into your stomach to help with digestion. Okay?
And then back in behind here, we have, we'll start with this first since it's in the front. This is your intestines, and what you see here, this is the large and small. Inside, what you see in the center part is it's smaller in diameter. So we do call it the small intestines. The small intestines, though, is larger, or not larger, it's longer than the large intestines. It's around 20 feet long if you were to take it and spread it out. It would be very long. And then this part right here, it actually, when it comes from the stomach enters behind the intestines. And so as it enters from behind, it comes into the small intestines right here. And then the small intestines moves, it follows this pattern, goes in and out. And then it enters the large intestines right here. And the large intestines is larger in diameter, that's how it gets its name. But it goes up here, over, and here. And if you actually were able to take it out and stretch it out, the average person is around 5 feet long. The large intestines is also known as the colon. And then the colon, as it gets down to here, it moves back up underneath it, which you can't see from a front view. But from back here, you can see it moves up into here. And then the area that it takes that waste, it stores it in the rectum. As food is digested in the stomach, as it's broken down and churned and made into smaller pieces, like almost liquefied, as that goes into the small intestines is what takes out or absorbs the nutrients. And then the water and undigested food gets pushed into the large intestines. And then as it moves through the large intestines, water is absorbed. So that by the time it gets finished and it's going to the rectum, it's only going to have the undigested food. And we call that waste.
And if you read the article, Bacteria in My Gut, then you read that there's like 5,000 different bacteria that live inside of your digestive system. And a lot of them live right here, and their job is to take care of all of that food.
And they're doing good for us. You
Yes,
might think of bacteria as bad. There are some bacteria that can make us sick with different bacterial infections like pink eye and strep throat and ear infections, but there's a lot of bacteria there's more bacteria that does good for us than there is that does bad for us.
So back here what we have you have your kidney, and you can see that it's shaped, it's much smaller. You have one on the left side and one on the right side. And then this organ right here is called your your pancreas. And what your pancreas does is it helps regulate sugar in your blood. So you know that someone who is diabetic may have problems with their spleen. Either it doesn't work, and they have to take insulin, or it doesn't work the way it should, and so they have to really watch what they eat and stuff. But everybody has a pancreas, and its job is mainly to regulate your blood sugar. Okay.
And then you have, as Ms. Short mentioned, you have your two kidneys. This sits here. You have one on each side, and really they're more towards your back. They would be, they would be in the lower back section, right in here. Is where your kidneys are. And their job is to filter. They filter out waste. They filter out material that allows you to be able to get rid of certain waste as well. But instead of solid waste, it actually helps to filter out some of your liquid waste. And so from the kidneys, you will urinate it on out. And we'll be talking about that a little bit next week with the excretory system. Earlier that this right here is part of this aqua color is part of your trachea. Trachea is also known as your windpipe. And as it comes down, as we either breathe in through our nose or nasal cavity or through our mouth, but it comes down, and as it does, it will go into each lung. It'll go into the bronchial tubes that enter into the lung. And at the top of the trachea, you can't really see it from here, but there's a little flap of tissue called the epiglottis, and its job is to cover up the trachea whenever we are eating food, so that food doesn't go down the wrong pipe or the wrong,
the wrong pipe. Because you want it to go down the esophagus, which has those contractile muscles that move the food down. And so sometimes when you're talking and you're eating at the same time, that epiglottis gets confused. Are you talking or eating? And so it covers the wrong pipe, and you end up getting choked, which is not a good thing. And then last but not least, you've got your heart. And we talked a little bit about the circulatory system last week. You have the veins, which bring oxygen-poor blood back to the body. And then you have arteries, which take oxygen-rich blood into the body. And so you have all kinds of things. Your heart has 4 chambers, 2 that pump and 2 that are muscular, that help move that blood everywhere that it needs to go.
And, as we've been studying throughout all these body systems, even before we left, we were studying cells. Cells make up tissues make up organs, and organs make up organ systems. And so all these organ systems have to work together. So we're talking mainly about the digestive system here today, but the heart is right in the middle of it. And so when you think of the heart, you might think of the circulatory system, but it ties right in with the respiratory system because it's the pumping blood and pumping oxygen. Oxygen is in the blood. Oxygen, water, and nutrients, they all get to the cells in every cell in our body through our blood. And then the blood also takes away carbon dioxide and waste products through our blood. This is the heart, so that's one half of the right lung and one half of the left lung. And the heart we hang on in front of it. And the lungs too are, if you look at that one and this one at the inside, you can tell they're shaped a little different. That's because your heart is in the center to your left. And so it's going to take up a little bit of space where that left lung would be.
And so your heart's about as big as your fist. You want to think about how big it is.
And then we will put the intestines back in. Clip on right around here. Stomach goes right up in there. Okay, and that is it. And a little bit more though, since we have studied the nervous system, you did last week, okay? The nervous system, one of the main organs that makes up the nervous system is the brain. And in our Patriot Jack, half of it is like a cross section. And you can see part of the brain. It's divided into two halves or
Hemispheres.
two hemispheres. And you have the cerebellum, you have the cerebrum, you have the medulla, which is like the brain stem. And then you have lots of different nerves and lots of different little pieces that all work together to help us think, help us process things, everything that we do. You know, sort of like we talked about when cells, we talked about the nucleus controls the cell. Well, our brain sort of controls us.
Right. Hate it when the stomach falls out.
The stomach's growling.
Yes, he's hungry. It's lunchtime.
Yep. So there you go. And that's it. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye. Hey guys.
Hello.
We just shared with you a moment ago about Patriot Jack, but we wanted to also share a little bit with you a zoomed in version of it. So this one won't be as long as the first one, but we wanted to point out a few features. So looking up close, these are the lungs of Patriot Jack. This is the heart. The heart is sort of in between the lungs, and it's sort of in the center of your chest, but it's center to your left. Then underneath the lungs, you have the diaphragm, you have the liver, and the little green structure that you see sticking out here is the gallbladder. This is the stomach, and then you have the intestines. You have the small intestines as well as the large intestines. So we're going to take the pieces apart again just so you can see them a little bit better. Okay, so these are the lungs, and this is just a half of one. So we're going to go ahead and take the heart. The heart hangs on these little nails. We'll set it over here. Then we're going to take out these other lungs. Go ahead and get that one. Okay, so you put these two together and they're about like that. If we look at the inside, you can tell that they're different shapes. This one's larger, but that's because the heart is more underneath the left lung or in between the left lung. But we want these lungs to be hollow. You can see these are very hollow. They're just like a dog chew toy or something like that. But we want our lungs to be hollow because we don't want fluid and we don't want waste. We don't want materials in our lungs. We want to be able to breathe in oxygen and breathe easily. So we want our lungs to sort of be empty like that. And then as you go on down, this is the spleen. The spleen does not come out of our
Diaphragm.
the spleen. The diaphragm does not come out, but the stomach sure does. So this is sort of the stomach. You can see it's J-shaped. this opening here is coming from the esophagus in, and then from here it's going out into the small intestines. You want to point out about the trachea and the...
So right here, you have the trachea. Remember, you have two pipes that are kind of in the same place. You have the trachea, which is where you either breathe in air from your nose or your mouth, and it comes down into your trachea, and then the two bronchial tubes move out into the into the lungs. But you often call this your windpipe. Well, right behind your windpipe, you have the esophagus. And so how does your body know the difference? Well, you have that little flap that you can't see up here called the epiglottis that closes when you're eating so that food doesn't go down this pipe, it goes down this pipe instead. Sometimes it doesn't work the way it's supposed to because you're talking while you're eating. So your esophagus moves down here, and it's going to connect right here to your stomach. That's what goes on behind here that we can't see.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to fall on. There we go. There it is. But it comes down, and then it connects up into here,
Right.
to this area. And the liver, the large brown structure, it's sort of triangular, is the liver. Food never enters the liver. And this structure back here that's sort of smaller triangular shape is the pancreas. Food never goes to the pancreas either. But they are both part of the digestive system. The liver does make bile, and some of the bile it stores in the gallbladder, this green structure that's underneath it, and then some of the bile goes directly into the stomach to help in digestion.
Okay. And then once food leaves your stomach, and once all of that happens, then it's going to move into your intestines, okay? So as we showed you before, the intestines, the smaller intestines are right here. They're the largest part, but they're called the small intestines because of their diameter. And so they're smaller than you have, it'll move all through here. Food and nutrients get absorbed in there with the little villi, and then food moves into whatever's left over, waste and water move into what we call the large intestines or the colon. And it's just going to keep moving where the rest of the water is absorbed, and then whatever you have left is called waste, which will move into the rectum until it's time to be expelled.
Mm-hmm. And then if you take the intestines out, and the pancreas is trying to fall out, then you have in the back, you can see the kidneys that are back here.
Yep.
And then you also have your major veins and your major arteries that are in there too. And then all this that you see right in here, these are all different muscles. This right here is the skin, but the skin is so many, layers thick, and that's fat that you see in there that makes up the bottom of the skin layer. And then right here this is like a cross section of it, but this represents the rib cage, the bones that's in there.
And what you see down here at the leg, these are nerves. So these green things are going to be what we're going to learn about next week with the nervous system, which starts up here with your brain.
That's right. And that's about it.